Recently, the CSIRO released a report concluding that nuclear energy does not currently provide an economically competitive solution in Australia. In the light of this and the continual falling of renewable prices, why should we now invest in nuclear power plants that could take decades to build?
Well, thank you for your question.
Will knew this question.
I thought it was assumed, to be honest. And thank you for your question. What I would first say about the Gen Cost report is, I'm not in a position to question it, but those are 8-year-old numbers, to be very honest with you, and we can't fully understand the cost of nuclear energy until we legalise it, because until we get the business plans in, until we get proposals, there's no way of knowing the true costs. Now, this clean energy transition is not as easy as I think a lot of politicians are making it out to be. There is huge, huge risks involved, and it's my firm belief that we need to have all options on the table in order to address it, and indeed that includes nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, unlike fossil fuels, is clean. It's the cleanest, it has the lowest greenhouse gas emissions of any energy source, and it's safe. It's the second safest form of power generation. And compared to renewables, not only is it incredibly reliable, but it's also, and I think the most important thing is, it's a proven technology. No nation around the world, no major nation has been able to completely power itself from renewables. And I don't think we should have to take that risk. And you look at the alternative with nuclear energy, there are 32 countries around the world which have successfully used nuclear energy, such as France and the UAE, and they have shown evidence that nuclear energy lowers power bills, lowers emissions, and increases nations' energy security. And I think that's important. Now, in regard to the risk question, what I would ask, and I think this is a question for the government, is what is the backup, what is the redundancy, and what is the plan B if this renewable-centric approach fails, as there's many credible experts who are saying, like A.D. Patterson and all of these other individuals, besides from dangerous and dirty fossil fuels like gas, which we know, according to the government's own reports, like the Net Zero Australia report, will be used for decades to come. I think that's a quite serious question, and one that I think the government needs to answer.
Now's your opportunity.
No, I do applaud the passion with which you speak on this, Will, and the knowledge that you bring to this topic as well. And I do recognise that. Nuclear was banned in Australia just as a way of background in the 1990s amid concerns about safety. I think those concerns persist. I think that there are still concerns about safety, and particularly around storage of nuclear. I also think that, and we've done the looking at this, that renewables are cheaper. We need something that we're going to be able to transition to fairly quickly. Nuclear will take a much longer time and will be more expensive in order to do that. Australia is best positioned to take advantage of renewable energy, but we also have some really great minds in Australia working on renewable energy and working on storage of renewable energy, because I know you're going to say the sun don't always shine, and you're right, the sun don't always shine, especially not in Melbourne, but we do have some of the best minds in the world in Australia working on renewables and working on storage as well.
What I would just argue is even the government's own AEMO, the electricity market operator, is predicting that there's going to be shortfalls in dispatchable energy, and that means the lights go out. I think we need to have all options on the table. And, in regards to waste and safety, like I said, nuclear is the second safest form of energy generation. A lot of that is overblown, I think. And in regards to spent fuel, we safely manage it. We've got Anstow at Lucas Heights. It's 30 kilometres from the Sydney CBD, and I've went recently, and they store the waste there. You can stand next to it. There's no impact. You're not exposed to any excess radiation. In fact, you're exposed to less than actually being in the city. It's incredibly well managed, and I think we've got the expertise in Australia. There's over 400 PhDs.
All right, Will, I think we've got to move on a little bit from this. I can see Aud. You're getting antsy over there. You're trying to get in.
Yeah,
please.
Look,
Yeah.
I am not staunchly decided either way about nuclear, I have to say.
You were a school strike for climate. Yeah,
That's
activist.
right, yeah.
Let's talk about that too.
Yeah, and I now work for AYCC, Australian Youth Climate Coalition. So I do a lot of that kind of grassroots protest organising side of the climate movement. My issue with nuclear energy at this point in time is that it is not transitioning us away from the model that we've had for so long with energy, which is extractive. To create nuclear energy, you have to mine. We have not seen it successfully done here, and also we've seen many, many Indigenous land groups oppose it. And until those concerns are resolved in a good way, in a way where I don't think companies like the likes of Rio Tinto can come in and take that, lifting of the ban and use it to destroy more sacred sites and extract more from the land in a way that isn't renewable, I'm not comfortable with it. The ban being lifted.
No, I get that. If I could very quickly respond to that, I think that it's actually in many cases worse for renewables, and we need to be frank about that. Mining in regards to solar panels, there's 14 times more mining needed for solar panels. The companies like Rio Tinto, like BP, whatever, they're the ones benefiting from this transition. Renewables does not mean it's clean. I'm not against renewables. I think renewables are good and we should have more renewables, and I think nuclear complements them. But even in regards to land, there's hundreds of times more land needed for renewable developments in regards to nuclear reactors, and that has an impact. That has an impact on Indigenous communities, that has an impact on farms, and there's been a huge push against that, and also to our our flora and fauna in Australia. So I don't think that's an issue unique to nuclear, to be very honest, and I think nuclear would actually improve those sort of issues.
Laura, you have campaigned for the Liberals. What's your take on this then?
I think there's growing support for nuclear amongst young people, and Will's Nuclear for Australia organisation demonstrates that perfectly. I think you're near 10,000 signatures now. And there's also been both the Liberals and the Nationals are starting to advocate for the conversation regarding nuclear energy, with both parties really pushing for it within their conversations, because there's obviously an energy crisis, and as Will said, we need to investigate all means available.
Oh, I can see.
Look, I have huge problems with nuclear. My problems are not the safety. I've looked at all your stats. Yeah. They're pretty good. They are. My problem is actually generally with the way that we use energy here, the way that it's completely unregulated, and we have energy companies have a huge stake in our democratic process, arguably more than a lot of people do. That's my main issue. Also, I mean, we've seen the court decision for the nuclear storage in the Kimber in the last week. I just think if Indigenous land rights groups and elders and traditional owners of the land are opposed to it, I'm opposed to it. It's their land. I'm aware that there's
Amarley. I'm behind that. Yeah, I'm behind it. Yeah, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, if Mob and family don't want people like digging around, mucking up the land, then don't do it. So that's all I've got.